Hey, so originally this video was going to be scripted and was going to be a different video and not part of the 22 days of combat, but I decided ultimately, because I could never get it finished, that, I might as well just make an unscripted video and get it out, because otherwise if I don't, then I'm going to take too long and it's never going to be done in time. By the time it's out, all the subjects in the thing would be out of date. So instead of just doing that, as I said, I'm just going to do this unscripted. So the subject of this video is basically talking about the modern state of fighting games. Now, this isn't about Twitter or stuff like the Alex situation in Street Fighter 6, although obviously that alone could be a very, very different subject, both of those. But basically, it's more specifically talking about the fact that stuff like the 2x KO dev team being cut in half or just over that because of the fact that they had expected more of a competitive scene, which never happened, which is unfortunate because that means that the game's very development from the start was hinging on the fact of a competitive scene, which, as Max Dood said in a video, I can't remember which one it is, but I'll link it somewhere or I'll provide a sample of it, mentions that the game itself, whilst very good, had the floor being designed for basically competitive first, and because it never reached the heights of, say, Street Fighter 6 or Tekken 8, as much as people have issues with that game currently, it still has the more competitive heights that 2xK had expected. Then we also have the issue of, well, not issue, but it's more of a concern of the fact that very soon Capcom Japan's esports division are going to be doing a Street Fighter 6 in-game watch fest of the competition that's coming up, but then they're going to be, if I remember correctly, they're going to be hiding the finals and then obviously making everyone pay for that. Now, the issue, if you haven't already figured out, the issue with current modern fighting games is less so the games themselves, although there are some exceptions. It's more so the fact that developers are very much focused on, getting to the biggest circles competitively and then making sure that every single asset or feature, would be more accurate to say, of the game fits that nature. I will say though, not every game is doing that. Invincible Versus, for example, which is going to have an open beta very soon on consoles, that I'm very, very excited to play that, because I'm a massive Invincible fan. I haven't finished Season 3, and obviously Season 4 is coming out very soon. Might be out by the time you watch this, depends. But basically that, whilst naturally fighting games have a competitive scene, it's not the push. They're not, from what's been said publicly, they're not bending over backwards for a competitive scene that may or may not exist in the near future, as I said, if at all. And because of that, the game isn't having the same issues as 2xKO or with the current marketing of Street Fighter 6. But there are other issues too, specifically in marketing. For example, with Fatal Fury's City of the Wolves trailer having it fully AI, or if not fully AI, but quite AI, and this is referring to the one where they showed off the most recent characters, which obviously generative AI is pretty sure don't need to make my stance on that clear, but just for the sake of transparency, no, I do not support generative AI, and I never will, because it basically undermines artists as well as people working on stuff like videos, which obviously, naturally, given the fact that you are watching a video, would completely be ironic if I'm going, oh yeah, Gen AI is great, I can make Alex from Street Fighter 6 do a backflip onto the London Eye or something, for an example. Obviously, please don't look at that, don't do anything Gen AI for that. If you're going to do that, at least draw it yourself, but or if you can't, commission it. But yeah, so on the whole, the issue with current fighting games is that a lot of them have a weird competitive push either before release or after release, and that's making projects suffer because of it, or in the case of Street Fighter 6, it's making public perception of the game become rather soured, which is obviously bad. Now, I will admit this has been really negative so far, so I will have some positives. Previously, about 2xKO specifically, previously I stated that I had a lot of complaints. Now, I haven't played the game in a couple months, since the PS console release of the game. However, from what I did play, it ran more stable, although because of my poor Wi-Fi, which I'm still hoping gets fixed very soon, it basically means that it's more stable, but it's slower. But that's, again, that is a problem with my Wi-Fi, not with the game itself, so it means they've improved the connection. And they have basically fixed every single other issue I had with it, with the sole exception of the lack of characters. However, I can acknowledge that that is more of the case of the game only now having a full public release outside of, you know, the beta on PC, which in itself obviously is a different conversation. Now, the other thing I should bring up is the fact that a lot of current modern fighting game fans are very vocal about the fact that a lot of the ideas coming from titles like Tekken 8, as in patch wise, not characters or whatever, seem to be coming in the way of like, oh well, they're nerfing everyone and then they're buffing them on a whim because we want to make sure that the lowest common denominator of those in a competitive scene, clarify, I'm saying competitive scene, not casual, because I acknowledge that a lot of people have complaints with Tekken 8 specifically in the casual sense, or at least they do at the time of this recording, and I think they still do now. But in the competitive sense, people are saying that a lot of the changes to games like Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, City of the Wolves, and a bunch of titles like that, they're all suffering some of the same problem where they keep changing things seemingly on a whim without much regard of the current meta, and that is another problem that obviously companies need to address. Now, leading back with Invincible versus the game obviously I've mentioned earlier, a lot of its strengths come from the fact that a lot of the devs come from the reboot of Killer Instinct. If you're not familiar with what that is, basically in 2013 Xbox decided that with one of the launch titles for the Xbox One, they were going to reboot the Killer Instinct franchise. Now, without going into much detail about it, that game went through a lot of development issues. Specifically, they literally went from one developer to the next, and then the second developer had no issues, but it was more so that transition. And after Killer Instinct Season 3, as in for characters, Season 3 was finished, Xbox basically decided there was nothing more that we could do with Killer Instinct, so a lot of the company went and worked on other titles, such as obviously Invincible versus and a couple of other fighting game titles that I can't think of. I was about to say Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, but that would be wrong. Power Rangers Battle of the Grid was made by people that played Marvel vs. Capcom 3 competitively for the most part, although naturally there were other developers on there too. But a lot of the traits for Invincible versus, from what we've seen, especially from Max Dood, if you don't know who, seriously, if you get the chance, go watch his videos, because he is like one of the main inspirations for this channel. In fact, if you check my subscription feed, which I believe is public, the only YouTube channel I'm subbed to is his specifically, although there are other great fighting game channels to watch, but chances are if you're watching this, you're subscribed to him already. But if you're not, then, you know, check the link in the description to his channel and genuinely check him out. He's an amazing person. He's been in the fighting game scene since, I believe he mentioned 1998, specifically with the original Marvel superheroes, the arcade fighting game. But that's besides the point, sorry. The strengths of Invincible Versus is that it takes what they've learned from KI, as in, when I'm going to address Killer Instinct's reboot as KI, just to make stuff easier. But as I said, the strengths they took from KI meant that they could take the bloodthirsty, serious and violent franchise known as Invincible. If you haven't read it or watched it, then I'd recommend doing so, but if you have, then, you know, I don't need to explain. And uses that to create a game that's both engaging and thematically in sync with specifically the Amazon show. It seems less so committed to the comics, but then again, the comics I don't think anyone has actually engaged with since the first season. Even the show has diverged from the original ending from when, spoilers, Omni-Man left Earth. But regardless of that fact, Invincible Versus is shaping up to be one of those projects where you look at it and you think, oh my god, I need to play that game. If you had any engagement with the franchise, less so with the fighting games, although if you are a fighting game fan, you should at least look at its gameplay, because it is very fun and engaging too. It works on the strength seen in Dragon Ball FighterZ as well as Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, sorry, to make that clear. And obviously there are other titles coming up as well, like Avatar, even though I haven't seen much footage of that since, I'd like to say, January. It's being made by the same people that made the Power Rangers Battle for the Grid game, which naturally by extension means that it's going to have very engaging combat, even though I think visually it could be a bit more diverse, but it's trying to remain faithful to the TV show, which in itself arguably had a kind of dull overlay over it with its footage. I think if they just darken it a little bit, like, you know, in post production, where a lot of films go like, hey, so this scene's too bright, we're going to make it a bit darker, just do something like that, add like an overlay or something. But again, that's merely just my opinion. Obviously you may think differently, and in fact I encourage you to form your own opinion on games like Avatar, Invincible, even mainline fighting games like obviously the ones I've mentioned prior. Now, I believe that's everything I wanted to talk about, so, you know, instead of dragging this out like I do sometimes with saying random stuff like, oh yeah, 2XKO's getting an update, when it wasn't, I'm seriously disappointed in myself for that. I'm not doing my proper research. And in fact, I've done that with a lot of videos. I'm going to improve on that moving forward. But anyway, instead of just saying random stuff, I'm going to end it here. Thanks for watching, or listen if you just have it on a background tab. Keep it real, keep it hype. See ya.